Are you ready to explore the exciting tech world like never before? Welcome to Better You, the podcast where we dissect the latest in business, technology, and startup trends, all with a keen focus on growth. So buckle up and get ready to stay ahead of the curve. Let's make you a better you.
And I'm not going to spoil the moment. I will let him introduce himself, but he's one of the amazing writer because I generally don't read books, but I have this book in my hand, which I love. And I'm going to tell you two stories how I found this guy. When I moved from engineering to sales, I wanted to be a top performer. And then I went on Google. I literally typed this. I said, how to say more without talking too much. As a engineer to sales, when I turned, I swear, second or third link was like, 3 minutes rule. I'm like, wow, this is actually crazy, amazing idea. And I generally, so I downloaded the book on Audible, started listening to the book. Brant, I made a couple of $1 million by following this book in last three or 4 years because I knew how to sell a little bit, but your book helped me to get that 3-minute attention because we all have that attention span disorder. In those 3 minutes, I was able to break the ice with my buyers. I think you're still on mute. Yeah. Let's figure this out. But yeah, I know, Brant, you're traveling. Yeah, now I can hear you. Perfect. I know you're traveling. You're on I don't know where you are right now. I think you're in Paris somewhere, right?
I'm in Paris. Yeah, that's correct.
And the way I know this because I follow your stories on Instagram and I love it. Every story, I know those are long stories, but I love it. Those are fun.
Yeah, it's been a good run. People love following in real time. So I'm pretty dedicated to try to keep people informed of what's going on.
Awesome. Yeah. So question I have for you, did I get your attention in less than 3 minutes or no?
Yeah, not too bad.
Perfect.
Not too bad. Let's see if you're paying attention.
Perfect. Okay. I watched a bunch of YouTubes, bunch of podcasts. I think everybody opens this line with you. Hey, how did you come up with 3-minute rule? I think I want to set the stage for you because the audience for this podcast, I can actually hear my own echo, but audience for this podcast is totally different. A lot of technical founders, engineers, CEOs, they are the subscriber of this podcast because my main persona on LinkedIn is engineers. And one of the things which I'm trying to do that how to take engineers from engineering background to selling background to sales. And this is where I am so, let me just say it, I'm so lucky to have you here because I want you to tell the engineers that how to practice this, like this 3-minute rule, how not to say too much because as engineers, they know a lot, they end up talking too much. And this is where you start, spilling the beans and things happens, right? And so Brant, over to you, introduce yourself and then let's just get to this conversation. I'm very excited.
Listen, engineers are, they're not the worst. The biomedical guys are probably the worst. Oil and gas guys are pretty bad too. Just in a sense, it's not bad. It's just that the real issue comes down to you end up processing information, right, of value to you on your business product or service in one giant package. You know the entire thing. You know every line, every word, every nuance, every idea of that business inside and out. Same with an engineering problem or a product or a service or a design. You know all the details, right? It's one cohesive package to you. And the problem is to somebody who's never seen it before or is coming from the outside, they can't see the cohesive package, right? They need to see it in linear form, one piece at a time, so they can ingest it all and then they can make the package. And the problem is most engineers, they see the totality of the product or the design, and then they want to explain all of it at once, as fast as possible, in as much detail as possible, because that's the joy. It's when you understand all the functioning elements, then you can get the big picture, right? And so what they end up doing is trying to paint the big picture right out of the gate. And they will just overcook that process. When really what you need to do is lead your audience in small chunks to get to the bigger picture. And if you happen to have an audience that's more advanced, understands the process, another engineer, you actually use less words. You actually can speak more to the core elements, and they will fill in more of the gaps because they're also engineers or CEOs or whatever it is, right? And I used to, I learned that in Hollywood really well, is that when I would go pitch NBC, a TV show, the fact of the matter is the guy running NBC at the time is a better producer than I am. Like, he was a producer for years before I was. He's, he'd already been through the business and made it. Like, now he's running NBC. So he didn't need me to explain any of the details of how to produce a goddamn television show. I didn't need to tell him about the sponsorship opportunities. I didn't need to tell him about casting. Like, I didn't need to do any of that. You know what I need to do? Be like, here is the idea. Here's how we're going to execute the idea. Here's why we think it's going to work for NBC. What do you think? Like,
nice. Yeah.
One line, he already knows what the show is, right? If I'm talking to Paul Telegdi or any of these guys that used to, they used to be real producers. And then he was running the network, Ben Silverman, like, the guy's a great producer. Then he's running the chairman of NBC. If I say to him, hey, it's The Amazing Race, but for the smartest people on the planet, teams of 4, MIT, like Audi, all these different, Harvard engineering. It's like Ben Silverman would understand that show better than I would. He's like, great, let's go. So instead of building IKEA furniture as you run from goal to goal to try to win The Amazing Race, you're doing the biggest, largest, most complex TV challenges ever invented. And there's a team of 3 superstar, smart, amazing, capable people. And I get it. And they get tools, and they can weld shit. They can build things. They can make huge contraptions to solve these huge problems as they race across the world. Easy show to get, right? Huge, massive, multi-million-dollar show condensed into basically a couple of lines, right? Or I had Angelina Jolie and Brad Pitt on a show for Fox that we developed, which was Mr. and Mrs. Smith, the movie, done as a reality. That's the pitch. Everybody in there gets exactly what it is. Okay, how does that work? Well, the husband and the wife both think they're the only ones on this competition reality show. And they're sneaking out to do various challenges, what they think is behind their husband and wife's back, and only in the end do they find out about each other and that they were both on the show. Okay? The executives at Fox understood that show. Like, that's about as surface as that's how the pitch goes. Here's what it is. It's the big movie. You own the movie. Fox owns the movie and owns rights to the movie. We have Angelina and Brad attached. We're going to do it as a reality show. There's what it is, right from the book. What is it? How does it work? I just told you, like, they don't know that they're each on the thing we know. Hi, honey, I'm going to get milk. Okay, be back later. He goes out and runs a challenge. Oh, my husband went to the store. And you go do a thing and then they come back. Like, that's how it works, right? Like, that's it. So, and then we develop the show with the network because they're smarter at it than I am. And in fact, the reason why that show isn't on the air, there's a couple of reasons, fun stories. Angelina Jolie is mean and difficult. But
Okay.
it actually wasn't 100% her fault. It was actually, and to be fair, she was right. The woman who took over Fox in the reality department was a show running specialist who had developed and built and been in the field making shows for 20 years. And then she went over to the network side. And in fact, I had hired her for shows. I gave her one of her first gigs. Like, I knew her very well. She's an amazing producer. And in fact, if I was making that show, I'd probably hire her to do it. And she was like, this is a great idea. You can't make it.
Oh,
It's like,
man.
it's not possible. We can't make this show. Sounds great, but no. It's physically not going to be able to work. And so we ended up not making it. Plus, we had made a deal for Angelina and Brad at $1 million an episode. And then they were like, you mean $1 million each. And we're like, no. And Angelina was like, well, I was in the movie too. Why wouldn't you want me to be separate executive producer and all, man?
So, Brent, so let me ask you this. Somebody throws this raw idea, raw words to you, like when I read the book, literally like a big ego, very smart person comes to you and says, hey, Brent, this is it. Go come up with the idea. So you go take the raw words, you build the story, and then you come back the story. In less than 3 minutes, you have to present the story. I think what I want to understand in this back-end system right here in your brain, what happens? Do you go into the inner stillness? Do you meditate? What do you do? Like, how do you come up with ideas?
So for me, it's really a matter of like, I sort of play a recognition game with all of the elements in entertainment, right? Like for me, every pitch, every idea is like a scene in a movie somewhere that I saw. And so I've basically seen every TV show and every movie that's ever been made. And I have effectively a photographic memory. So whenever I hear or think of something or people want to describe something or they have a business that does something, my brain is going to an analogy. So I have a very analogous sort of system where it's like, oh, this is like this in this world, right? And so that's how sort of the ideas generate. And then I go to like, how do I tell that story? How do I lead people to the proper conclusion as I'm telling that story? So the creative side of stuff is just, for me, it's like piece by piece. Once I understand what I'm trying to explain, kind of like I just need to like lay it out cleanly. So if someone, a client, most of the client work I do where I'm taking a specific company that is a garbled mess, has no idea what they're doing or what they want to do or how they want to say it, most of it's in real time. Like if you sent me all your bullet points and your words, like I kind of get it right away, right? And so if I'm doing one of my seminars a weekend or whatever, like they'll come in, we'll sit in the boardroom and we'll start talking, and like I kind of understand what their company does really. So you actually blank, and they're talking along and, and I'm like, yeah, I got it. And so then the next few hours, I'm poking and prodding and reinforcing the side of it and figuring out the angles. And like, I've just been doing that for so long. Like that happens to be my superpower. Like I don't do a lot of things well, but that one I do well. And being able to take what you do and turn it into something that anybody can understand is right up my alley.
Nice. Yeah. So as the content creator economy is booming, I think as per Forbes, is going to be like a couple of $100 billion industry in next couple of years. I was reading your book and you talked about Hook, and you shared a story of Katy Perry. And then you said she's the most famous or number one singer, whatever in the world. And then you got some pushback. That was a hook. Correct? Now, give me the philosophy behind it. How did you come up with it? And then also it's a very risky hook. How do you do this?
So it's actually we work backwards from that, right? And that's the illustration of the Katy Perry thing is like, if you come up with a grand statement and then you try to justify that statement with facts, people will doubt that statement from the beginning. That's why I use that on stage. I'll say like, Katy Perry is the greatest female performer of all time. People are like, well, not really. And it worked better before Taylor Swift, let me tell you. But the idea is that you instantly are like, well, this guy doesn't know music very well, or she's not, oh, what about this? Like, just like when people heard this right now, their brain may have gone to Taylor Swift right away. I'm like, what is he talking about? And the idea is that if you lead your audience with a big grand conclusion, they're going to be doubting it the entire time. So now you're just trying to overcome their initial objection, which is a nightmare scenario. And the key is if that's the hook of your pitch, hey, I'd like Katy Perry to be a guest on or judge on American Idol. The hook of that is that she's great, personable, and she's basically the greatest performer, female of all time, to be on your show. You want that, right? My job as the guy pitching and presenting is to lead the audience to come up with that hook on their own, right? It's like in Hollywood, that's how we tell story. If you think about my favorite movie, The Shawshank Redemption, right? Like the hook of that story is Andy Dufresne can't take it anymore at this horrifying prison, and so he escapes. Spoiler alert if you hadn't seen it. We don't start the movie by saying Andy Dufresne escapes from this horrifying prison. Let me tell you why, right? Like we lead you to that moment. And what's interesting is you could watch that movie 50 times. You still want him to escape. You always want him to escape. Why? You've seen it. You know the answer. But the story leads you to that conclusion. I want him to escape, right? And that's in when I'm on stage, I'll show a picture of the Titanic and be like, does anybody not know what this boat is? Everybody's in the Titanic. I was like, does anybody not know what happened to the Titanic? I don't want to ruin it for anybody. Everybody knows. It's like, so how does James Cameron get you to sit in a quiet theater for 3 hours to watch a movie about a boat that you know sinks? Right? Like,
It's so true.
it's because not about the hook of it, right? It's about what information leads you to that moment. And that is the core of what I do, is that you can't make grand statements and then hope that you can prove it to your audience. You have to make factual, breadcrumb, trail-leaving statements that lead your audience to come up with their own grand conclusion. And it's just like it was like John Taffer is effectively a Gordon Ramsay-esque doing the same show that Gordon Ramsay was already doing when I pitched RSQ. It's not like a unique idea. But if I went into that meeting and said, hey, I have the next Gordon Ramsay, but for bars and restaurants, the network would be like, what are you talking about? But in that meeting, this is John Taffer, here's what he does, here's the show we envision, here's how it's going to work, this is what it's going to cost, this is how I think we can make it. The network president goes like, yeah, well, and John could be our Gordon Ramsay, but for bars and nightclubs. Right? Like, if I had told him that that's what it was, he wouldn't have believed it. He would listen to everything with that tone. I walked him through it. He's the one who's saying, okay, I get it. This is great.
Brilliant. So basically you throw this hints, stuff to people and let people make the conclusion, and then you just stick with it. The reason I brought this up, because I think if people don't know about you, I think you'd still take a huge risk by making a statement. When you make a statement on the stage in front of, let's say, thousands of people, 50% may know you, 50% may not know you. Suddenly you made this Katy Perry statement. I'm sure that there's a lot of friction in that moment you created. But then as the friction came in, people now remembered, they paid attention to you, because there was ultimately a conclusion based on a personal opinion whether she's a great performer or not, right? So I think that's what you did.
Yeah.
Correct? Okay. For the salespeople, what is your recommendation? Because see, I generally get on the 20 minutes call with the prospect. And during that time, I remember, and trust me on this, Brant, every time I first time when I talk to a prospect, I have this 3-minute rule in my head. It's just stuck in my head that this person, he or she's on the call, I have 3 minutes. I have to, and this is what I do. You tell me if I'm wrong or not, but so far it's been very successful. It's not about me. I make you important in those 3 minutes by paying attention to you and your pain points, and then I get that attention. What is your take on that approach?
Listen, it's great. You have to be pretty skilled at that, right? Because at the end of the day, sales tactics and techniques are recognized by the audience quickly. So
yeah,
I usually lean towards letting the information on the product, the business, the service, or the opportunity kind of sit on its own and lead with it, right? I sort of tell this story in various ways, but the idea is if you were getting married and you were interviewing various caterers, and part of the big thing is, well, who's going to be the chef there in your catering company to carry to our fancy wedding, right? I was coming to meet with you. And the chef that I had coming was Gordon Ramsay. How many words would I need to convince you in your pride that you should hire me, right? 4 words. I have Gordon Ramsay. That's it. And so, but if it was my, ex-convict brother-in-law who isn't really a chef, he's very mean and he really needs a job, how many words would I need to try to convince you to let him be the chef, right? Like, I would be talking all kinds of details about, the chef isn't the main thing. It's really about the atmosphere. Like, I would just be talking, trying to convince you. And in today's world, you would know that. You would recognize that. You would hear that. You would feel that. You would sense that confidence. You would understand that something is missing, right? And so it's inversely proportionate to the number of words you use, how confident you really are in the value that you're bringing to others. So in a sales perspective, it's like if you really have the goods, you don't need to sell it. And there was a fascinating experiment that we did for the scene in the movie where we had people in New York City handing out various coupons. And you could just see it's just an icky thing to be trying to hand people stuff on the street, right? And then we increased the value of the coupon. And you could see they kind of like lit up a little bit because it was actually like a $20 gift certificate. Oh, it starts to be a better coupon. And their behavior changed. The way they tried to sell people changed because the value was more. Then we gave them 1/2 ounce gold bricks. They were worth like $1,000 each, $900 each at the time. You can imagine what happened. Now all of a sudden, they're not like, should I give you please, here's the $25 the coupon. No. It's like they're bright, they're excited. They're like, here, sir, I wanted to give you this, right? And what you found was their explanations, their language, their tone, their talk became smaller, simpler, straighter to the point, very detailed. They weren't explaining to you how the gold is calculated and why it's just like...
I see a point, yeah.
You could just feel the difference. And the crazy thing was, people still didn't take it. People still walked right past them because they're so used to being lied to and bullshitted and scam and like over-promising and under-delivering, right? We had lots of people walk right past $1,000 piece of gold, right? The difference was when the sales guy didn't get the answer he wanted, he wasn't deflated. It wasn't like, no, someone told me no. And he wasn't trying to sell it. He was just like, yeah, here's what it is. 1/2 ounce of gold, it's yours if you want it. Like, it was such an easy sell, right? And what you found was after the first couple that went by, they actually got simpler, not more complex. They didn't explain it in more detail to try to get someone to take the gold. It went the opposite direction. And when they started saying like, hey, 1/2 ounce of gold free, it's yours if you want it. It's just like, now everybody took it, right? We were out of those 4 instantly. And so it's because it's just a simple reaction to like, if you have something of real value, you don't need to sell it.
Yeah. In my tech world, there are 2 companies. I'm not going to mention the names. One company does top to down sell, and another company does bottoms up. And bottoms up salespeople, all they do is talk. The other one does it. Hey, blah and blah CEO is using it. You should be using it. Done. So that's how it goes. Very interesting. So I think the question I have for you, if I take a step back, how did you come up with the whole idea of 3-minute rule? And in the same context, I know, we talked about the whole movie stuff and your stuff, but I think I really want to, what happened in your life? I know you took a break from your TV career, then you said, you know what, I'm just going to do my own thing. And then you started giving talks and so on. What is that moment which said, you know what, I'm going to take a break. I'm going to go write a book and do this thing. What is that life incident which happened?
So, for me, it's like, it was twofold. One was the opportunity to actually work with another company that did this. I had no idea this existed. So it was if you read the book, it's a random thing that happened at a hotel. An investment banker said, "Hey man, can you teach my clients to pitch their ideas without putting people to sleep?" Because he had seen me talking about TV. I said, I don't know, whatever. I happened to be in Florida at the same time he had a conference. I met one of his clients. It was a disaster. It was the worst pitch I ever heard. He's like, "Can you help me fix it?" I was like, "Well, I don't know anything about oil and gas companies or anything. I don't even know the words you're using. But I do know how I would pitch this as an idea." And we just restructured it. It did really, really well for him. They raised all their money. The bankers went crazy because they were like, "Oh my God, we just completed our raise." Like, it was night and day in the way he presented. And so they were like, "Hey, we have another client. Will you want to work with them?" I was like, "Sure." And I just found that I received more, basically just more love. You know what I mean? More praise, more accolades, more. I felt the rush of success that I felt when I first got into TV. When I first got into TV, like, I'd sell a show. It was a rush of I finally found the place where I'm supposed to be in the job and the career I'm supposed to have, right? But then you have some credits, you make some money, you do all these things. Now it's like, well, what am I chasing now? Like, there was no, I was already who I was. I wasn't being great anymore. I was coasting. And this was the first time I had felt great again. Like, holy crap, like, people appreciate me, So that was a huge piece. And then I just got into a mode, and Tony Robbins is a good friend of mine, and we were developing a show together. And I just, while we were going through this, I just realized, like, I don't really want to do this TV thing anymore. I'm just doing it for the money. And, and then I sold the book, which was big. And I got a release date. I think it was the October release date. And when they gave me that release date, it was the first time I genuinely felt like, okay, TV is not my backup plan anymore. Like, I'm never going back. That part of me as a day-to-day is done. Like, it gave me the confidence, I guess, because I think that when I went and sold the book, I felt like I sold them the book. I felt like I pitched them a brilliant idea, and I convinced them because I'm, arguably one of the best sellers, in the world of that kind of stuff. They're Random House, a pretty big publisher, but they're not used to people coming in and pitching great ideas. It's usually on the page. So in the back of my mind, I kind of felt like they got swept up in the personality, and maybe the book is a pile of crap and they just haven't read it yet. That's really what I felt like the entire time. And
love it.
My editor was kind of like, when I said, like, "Oh wow, like, I guess the book's not too bad." And he's like, "What do you mean? Like, the book's great. We've been telling you this for months. What? You don't believe us?" And I was just like, no. And he's like, "No one cares about you here. No one even knows who you are. I'm the only one who was in the room. Everything we're talking about is what we read on the page. So the book's good. It's like, if it gets the time slot, it's our number one book of the year. So, and you're in the top 3 right now. So you should be pretty, like, the book's going to do well." I was like, shit, I don't need TV anymore. Like, and that was it. I never went back. I produce a movie every year just for fun, direct and whatever, but I don't run a TV company the same way I did before. I don't do that. It's the greatest thing.
Have you ever dealt with the imposter syndrome?
I deal with it every single day, just like everybody else.
How do you handle it?
The guy who ran NBC said to me, he's like, "Hey man, we're all one bad email away from everyone figuring out we're a fraud." Like,
yeah.
And particularly in TV and film, where you don't have any marketable skills. Like, there's no, and that's the crisis that's going through Hollywood right now, is that these people are losing their jobs. It's not as like it used to be, and they're not qualified to do anything. That's how I felt. And I still feel like with clients, I feel like I'm way out of my league with these companies that I just like, I don't know what these companies do. Like, this is insane, But We get in a room, and then there'll be 9 of them at a conference table. They've been working there for 4 years, and it's like, wait, this is all you guys do, and you don't know how to explain this? Like, oh, I get it. You do radon microphone. Like, they have what they do, and so it's like I deal with it every single day. There's 5,000 television producers that could have written this book and have probably a better credit list than I do. Like, that's just the reality of the world. Like, the difference is that I'm the guy who put his hand up and said, like, I'll write the book. I will be the expert here. I will put past my doubt and just tell you that I'm the professional and I'm the best. And then it'll stay.
I'm very curious now. I'm going to ask you a lot of questions now. Like, I want to actually understand your thinking. How do you think? When you said, I deal with imposter syndrome every day, I talk to people who are doing that thing for last 4 years, and then now you're shocked that you cannot explain your thing which you're doing for last 4 years. So Brant, there is something in your head. There is a way you tap into something where those creative ideas, the creative energy comes out. What do you do when you see a problem in front of you which you never heard of, and then suddenly you have this amazing pitch, this idea?
Like,
where it comes from?
I go through that same thing where it's just like, I'll go to do a seminar with a company. I don't feel like I've done enough homework. I don't feel like I'm qualified to be able to help them. I'm not sure what to say. The stuff I've seen, I can't get my brain around. And then we'll get in the room, and it's like, I don't even really know the terminology of what the company does. But as soon as we get in the room, it's like, oh, right. Like, now we're in my playground. Like, this is a different world now, because you're live in the room with me. And we're talking ideas and how to explain things. And like, that's my most comfortable moment, It's like I put on the ice skates, and I get to skate around and play hockey while you guys are all flopping around in the ice, never been seen snow before, right? Like, the confidence comes pretty quick because I can unlock that puzzle. And the problem for me is I don't know how to do it ahead of time. Like, I don't know how to do it until I get in the room and the small talk ends and the whiteboards are up there and my Post-it notes are there and everybody stops sort of giggle-gaggling and chatting about it. And they're just like, okay, guy, we paid a unbelievable sum of money to come hang out with us. Impress us. And it's like, I fear that moment every time, and somehow it works out. So it's just like, it's like what I do when I'm talking to schools. It's like, I found my specific lane. Like, this is the one thing I do incredibly well. Take complex ideas and come up with a way to explain them to anybody so anyone can understand. There's just not a lot of people who do that. And a lot of times, if you have that skill, you don't have a lot of other skills. So when I'm in those rooms dealing with engineers, and with if they're really good engineers, they've crafted a great product, they don't have this skill, thank God. Right? So it's that lucky sort of opening.
Do you think this because of the attachment that we have? So for example, I am a founder of a product. I have to sell it. I have to increase the revenue. I have to go to VCs. I have to raise money. All this other stuff is piled up in my head. Do you think because of that, I have attachment to those outcomes? That's why I am blocked on the creative way of thinking. And now you come in from outside as a consultant, as a speaker, as a coach, and now you are able to tap into the piece which I'm missing because I have attachment to the outcome.
Yeah, I mean, to you, again, it's like I said at the very, very beginning, to you, everything is perfectly clear. And every element about the business has value, and you know how to unlock that, right? And so it's very hard for you to decide which things you don't need to say now, which things you can say later, what's the leading. I come in blind, I hear it, and I know how people process that information. And then I know how I would explain it to somebody who's never heard it before. That's the job of a director or a producer or a writer, is like, I got to get you to understand it the way I understand it. And so I'm super good at getting that element out. And you have all of it unlocked in, like locked up in one cohesive giant idea. And I know how to take the pieces individually and lead someone so that they get that piece. And that's like, it's definitely hard for people to do that. And I'll tell you, like, when I wrote the book, you know, they say, like, I had an idea that I wanted the forward of the book to be 3 minutes long, 3-minute rule, 3 minutes. And the opening line of the book is like, hey, the average business book reader decides to read a book in the first 5 pages. The average business book forward is 15 pages. It's like 5 pages is about 3 minutes. I get 3 minutes to explain to you why you should read this book, right? Like, that was my idea. So I talked to the publisher, and they were like, great, write in after the book's finished so that you know everything in the book, and then you can write your forward, right? So I needed to do 5 pages. Wrote the book, book's done. I'm all excited. I book a trip to Jamaica, my wife, 2 weeks. And I'm like, okay, well, when I land, first day on the beach, I'll write the forward. That'll be it. So my first pass at the forward is 13 pages long. Oh, okay. Well, I'll try. I'll trim it down. I go through it, rewrite it, restructure it, trim it down, 11 pages. I go through it again, 10 pages. I go through it again. Now it's been an entire week. All I've been doing is trying to get this forward down. I got it down to 9 pages. Then I started having a negotiation with myself. You know, this forward is so ridiculously good. It is so well structured. It is so important. It touches on all the things. Maybe this is the time when if you got something this good, the 3-minute rule doesn't really apply, right? Like, it's okay for it to be longer because it's just that good, right? I can't cut anything. This is me. This is the guy who wrote the book about this. I went through the entire 2 weeks. I couldn't get it down. I had to come back home. I had to go to my office. I had to put the Post-its on the wall and start again, crafting and creating the forward for my own goddamn book, my own system, breaking it down and deleting all the stuff. And then after that, sent it in. I got it to the 5 pages. Pretty happy with it. I send out these proof copies, they're called. They're basically like really cheap newspaper versions, paper, like really flimsy, that you get prints of the book and you give them to reporters and you give them out to people to give you feedback and give you reviews and shit like that, right? And one of my closest friends called and he's like, oh my God, no, the book's great, blah, blah, blah. He's like, the only thing I wish it would have been a little bit like, started a little bit faster. Like, you know, I felt like at the beginning kind of took a while to get going. I was like, what is he talking about? So I went back and I read the forward. It's great. 5 pages, it's perfect. However, I started reading chapter 1 and I had taken stuff from the forward that I loved that I couldn't get rid of, and I pushed it into chapter 1 to make myself feel better about my 5-page forward. And I read this, and it was a crap. It was 3 extra pages of garbage. And so luckily I was able to chop that out before I went to find a publisher. But when I read the book today, I still have at least 3 paragraphs I could have trimmed. And it's because I became so in love with my own information that the guy who wrote the book on this stuff still had problems doing it.
And you know, the most exciting part is in the chapter 1, there's so much good stuff, you know, VAC and bunch of things, and you get to the point. And you're absolutely correct. You know, first 5 pages, 15 pages, like when I read the book, I had read first like 30, 40 pages, then I switched over to Audible because I'm at the gym, walking, listening to the book. And it's just amazing stuff that you have created. Again, when I talk to the engineers, every sales pitch I do to the technical people, I talk about two things, either 3-minute rule or Simon Sinek's golden rule. And when there are moments, I talk about both of them. Guys, listen to 3-minute rule and read Simon Sinek's, or listen to Simon Sinek golden rule, 19-minute video on TED Talk. Amazing stuff. And it's basically, it revolves around the same topic. Start with why. In the same way, if you can explain the problem in first couple of minutes, then you have a stage to explain your solution. Yeah. I know.
Yeah. It's funny. Simon and I got into it a bunch of times about stuff.
Really? Nice.
It's so funny. Yeah, we have one. I mean, the guy's great.
Yeah.
I love him. But we disagree on one very specific thing. I don't know if you know, he says, like, you've seen the thing with his Apple computers, where it's like Apple doesn't sell computers. You know, they sell and then it's like, oh, and we happen to sell computers, right? And so the idea that that's the marketing, the new marketing.
Yeah.
And my thing is like, no, that's 100% wrong.
Really?
He's 100% wrong. Yeah. He's just, the guy's brilliant. He's much better than I am in most of these things. He's just 100% wrong on that. And it makes good content. It's just wrong. The fact is that Apple sells the best computers. And everybody in the world knows that. So now they don't have to tell you about that, because they've already sold you computers that are spectacular. Now they can tell you that they're a company about innovation and they're a company about design. And it's the same thing on McDonald's. They sell happiness, not cheeseburgers. It's like, no, they sell cheeseburgers, 1 billion of them. And if you sold 1 billion cheeseburgers, then you don't have to tell people you sell cheeseburgers.
That is so true.
Until you sell 1 billion cheeseburgers, you better bloody well start with, I make cheeseburgers. You don't sell happiness. You don't sell a solution. You don't give people the emotion. It's like, you do that, people are going to look at you like you're nuts. It's like, I don't even know what you do yet. It's like, no, I sell cheeseburgers. Here's where I sell them. Here's why they're great. Not like, I sell, you know what I mean? You're not selling the emotion, or you're not trying to fill someone's hunger, right? Like, and that's the thing. Like, no, Nike does not sell motivation. They market now is because everybody in the goddamn world knows they sell shoes. So when you get to a place where everybody knows what you do, you can do whatever you want with marketing too.
You know, look, I have to say yes to this, because once you become a best-selling author, people know you, then you can write stuff. And if you have fan base, they will buy it, right? So I like 200% with you. So I know you're on a Europe tour to wrap up this episode. What are you doing in Europe? When are you coming back? What's next for you? You know, hopefully a new book, something new. Tell us something more exciting.
So I'm on a world tour. So I'm doing a lot of speaking around the world. I'm doing 52 countries in 52 weeks. So every week is a new country. Europe was the first set. We did 17 weeks in Europe. And then we're going down to Africa and Asia and the Middle East. And so I'm, meeting people, doing stuff. I do some work here and got my family with me. So I live on the road for the next year. And it's just, my kids at a certain age. I'm at a sort of life transition point in my life anyways. The book did pretty well. And, I've had some good luck with various investments and ventures, and as a result of working with companies. So I'm sort of in a mode now where I kind of just want to do what I want, whenever I want, for whatever reason, whenever I want. I don't want to be responsible to anybody for anything.
Freedom.
That's the goal in life for me. So I have a movie coming out about this trip around the world, and a book to accompany it. I don't know that I'll do another business book. The truth is like, it's a lot of work. And it's not the writing. I love the writing. I don't like the promoting. I spent my entire career in Hollywood promoting and pushing and trying to make friends with everybody. And it's like, it's an exhausting process. And I leveraged all my relationships to sell the book and to live up to the promises I told the publisher of my celebrity. Like, I did all that. And then I asked all my friends to buy it. And I asked all my friends to write, and Tony wrote a thing in the back. And like, I had to ask for all those favors. And I just, there's an interesting moment where the publisher sort of asked me to get on The View, and Whoopi Goldberg and I were friends, and I had done work with her, and they knew that, and so they were kind of giving me like a little bit of pressure to be like, hey, you got to ask her. The book really needs this. This could be a huge thing on The View. And it's like, I didn't really want to do it. And so I called her and I asked her. And of course it was like, no, you can't be on The View. The View doesn't do things that we do political stuff now. It's like, and it's just like, I kind of knew that. I just realized at that moment I went from a peer of hers, not in some ways, but in the way we interacted. It's like I've never asked her for anything in my life.
I see.
And now I'm one of those guys, right? Like I'm one of the guys who asked her for a favor, and she had to say no. And I hated that feeling so much that I was like, yeah, I'm never doing that again, ever. And right now, the people listening, if they buy my book, great. If they don't, great. Then I don't need to sell more books. I don't have a course. You know what I mean? Like, I don't sell anything. I don't really take on new clients. It's just a joy. It's a joy to be in that position where it's like, I genuinely don't have anything to sell to anybody. I don't benefit from any, but like I said, like I make $1.86 if you buy a book. Like it makes no difference.
Man, you should become a coach.
So,
I think a lot of people.
Yeah, and I like that stuff. And I have a couple of big clients that I coach, and I just don't do a lot of it anymore. I don't expand my business. I don't try. Like I like that space. So will I do another business book? Maybe. I have to get out of that publishing deal so I can self-publish it.
Let me ask you this. My partner, she and I, she always gets into conflict when I make this statement. I think Jack Canfield made this statement. He said, there is no such thing called best writing author. There's a thing called best-selling author. It doesn't matter how good your book is. If you don't know how to sell it, nobody's going to buy it. And she disagreed to it. I don't know what's your opinion about it.
I mean, it's just like everything in life, right? Like if you can't deliver the message, doesn't matter how well you've crafted it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I find even in my own business right now is that a lot of the companies that I work with and individuals will be like, okay, they don't have a strategy for getting the message into the hands of the people that need to get it. So it's like I'm working my ass off to help create this message, and they don't really have a good plan of getting it out there. So I've had to add entire digital marketing function of my company, and so now I because that's so difficult to do. And if you don't do that right, the message is like, great, you have a great message, but no one hears it, no one sees it, no one cares about it. That's super disheartening. So definitely the strategy of how to sell something is as important as how you make it.
That makes sense, yeah. So Brant, when are you back in the US?
July.
Oh my God. Wow. Wait, so July 2025, you are in Europe and you started this trip in July?
No, I go to Africa next, and then I'm going to go to the Middle East, and then I'm going to be in Asia, and Australia, and I'll be down in South America. Yeah, touring around the world, dude. 52 countries.
First, be safe in Middle East. Second, kids, school, stuff. I have so many questions. Watching your Instagram stories, I have so many questions. Jet lag. How do you guys, who's booking all these trips? I mean, it's crazy stuff.
Yeah, it's a lot of work. I have a team that books all the stuff in advance for the most part. Kids help out a little bit. My kids are taking a break from school. Okay. And so when we get back, they'll go on to their lives and I'll reset mine and we'll figure something out, You can work anywhere in the world. It's not difficult.
Your son exactly looks like you, and your daughter needs to smile a little bit more on the videos.
I know. She loves that. She plays that role well.
Yeah. Awesome. Brant, thank you so much for doing this. I know I'm not a very famous podcaster, but I really, really appreciate you doing this for me.
Hey, man. Yeah. I'm very glad I got a chance to do it.
I appreciate that. Thank you, Brant. Be safe.
Rock on,
Yes,
dude.
see you.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Better You. I hope you enjoyed our deep dive into today's topic and found some valuable insights to help you on your growth journey. If you liked what you heard, be sure to subscribe to the podcast so you never miss an episode. And don't forget to leave us a review and share Better You with your friends. Together, let's continue exploring the exciting world of tech and business. Until next time, stay curious, stay innovative, and keep growing.